Hi, and welcome back. And today 10, the final day not only of part 3, but of this 30-day pack. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit, just very briefly at the end, on how best to approach this, kind of where to go from here, and how to get the most out of all 3 of these techniques. But just to reflect, in part 1, where we were looking at this idea of you are not your thoughts, we are not our thoughts, we're not our feelings. Thoughts and feelings come and go. If you can remember that within the context of this exercise, but also in everyday life, maintaining a sense of space, then we have a fundamentally different perspective on life. In part 2, we were looking at this idea of creating a framework, very conducive conditions for letting go. So within that sense of space, we find it a lot easier to put down our baggage, to let go of old patterns of thinking and feeling, and instead feel a lot lighter. And then in part 3, we've started to look at how by focusing more on the happiness of others, we can actually start to experience a lot more happiness ourselves, not through any kind of force, but in focusing more on others, it changes the shape, the dynamic of the mind. We kind of have to just let go of our thoughts, our feelings, and momentarily we create a space in the mind in which happiness naturally arises. So if we can remember those 3 key themes, then, as I say, not only within the context of the exercise, but within the context of life itself, then we will very quickly, I think, have a different perspective on those thoughts that were previously perceived as something permanent and long-lasting. Right now, though, we're going to begin today's exercise in the usual way, so make sure you're sitting comfortably, upright, eyes open. And when you're ready in your own time, just taking some nice big deep breaths. And with the next out breath, just gently closing the eyes and just settling back into the space around you now. And now just starting to get a sense of how the body's feeling today. Sense if there are any particular areas of feeling uncomfortable or particularly relaxed. And just to help with that, just starting at the top of the head, just scanning down from head to toe. And just shifting the attention now to the breath as you just become more aware of that movement, rising and falling sensation. Just staying with that on your own now. And as you just let go of that focus on the breath now, just imagining yourself sitting there looking happy, relaxed. That little glimmer of sunlight in the middle of the chest, middle of the body. You just watch as it expands outward in every direction, melting away any tension, bringing a greater sense of ease, comfort, and relaxation. And when you can see that that sunlight's filled every last part of the body, as though you're as happy as you can possibly imagine you looking. Just letting go of that image, replacing it, that image of that person you care about, and in just the same way, just repeating that process now. And now when it looks as though they're as happy as they could be, noticing how that feels as you see them sitting there, looking so content. Just letting that image of the person go, allowing the feeling of space, of sunlight to remain. Even perhaps the image of sunlight as you just imagine it expanding outward in every direction. With it, that sense of contentment and happiness, knowing that everybody wants to feel that way. And now just letting go that idea, allowing the feeling of space to remain. We're just taking a moment to let the mind do whatever it wants to do. And now just bringing the attention back once again to the body, back to the space around you. As you just start to notice the different sounds, become more aware of your posture, and when you're ready, just gently opening the eyes. And as you pause to notice how you feel today, at the same time, making sure you take the time to congratulate yourself on having completed this 30-day pack on depression. So this is it's a really challenging thing to sit with those feelings. Most people who experience those feelings will try and run away from them. We'll try and distract ourselves from those feelings. So it's a really big deal to actually take this step to sit down with them and find a way, not of getting rid of them, but of shifting the perspective so that we relate to them differently, we witness them differently, and therefore we experience them differently, we feel them differently. Now, of course, this is just the first time you've done these 3 techniques, at least within the context of depression. And I always encourage everyone to think of these packs in terms of kind of learn, practice, master. So the first time you do it, you're learning, you're taking on a lot of new information. The techniques may well be new as well. So it can take a little while to sink in. So it's important in the future to come back and to do it a second time. The second time was really kind of more about practicing. We're not thinking so much about what we need to do. There's more just a sense of doing it and, refining the practice a little more. The third time we come back, then there's a real sense of, if you like, mastering the practice. There's really no kind of thinking going on now. It's more just applying ourselves. And when we do that, we start to see, as I say, a real sustainable shift in our perspective. So I hope you've enjoyed these last 30 days. I hope you found them useful. And I look forward to seeing you back here soon.